Hello，大家好，我是老唐。今天是加拿大萨省时间2023年6月13号。每天阅读10分钟，好习惯养成。今天是我们继续阅读的第143天。好，我们接着阅读《Grow Rich with Peace of Mind》这本书啊，第一次读这个英文的书。然后这本书一共有16章，今天读第3章。希望可以在接下来的13到14天这个月结束之前把这本书读完。第3章。The basic mental attitude that brings wealth and peace of mind. Basic mental attitude. A life of wealth enjoyed by a man at peace comes most often to men who maintain a positive mental attitude. With definiteness of purpose, you add great positive power to your own mental attitude, and you can use definite motives to sustain the action which propel you toward your goal. At the same time, you can set up spiritual guardians to keep your attitudes at a high yes level. Avoid conflicts of motive, tuning on other positive minds. The computers which are beginning to manage our world are complicated devices. Most of them, however, have a very simple basic principle. They say yes or no. They either open a kind of electrical gate or they keep it closed. And by multiplying the process, they can assimilate and select all kinds of information. The man, the man of mind is far more wonderful than any machine. Within it, however, there seems to be a kind of yes-no value at the focal point of thinking. It is as though your awareness of a circumstance of life, sent to your brain by your sight, hearing, and other senses, presents itself at the yes-no point to be precise. A person who maintains a positive attitude will find every possible yes in that circumstance and make it part of his life. A person who maintains a negative mental attitude will learn to work in the no side, miss much that is good, live with much that is painful and damaging. Nothing but a mental attitude, nothing but a mental attitude, but it is right there that your success or your failure, your peace of mind, or your nervous tension, your tendency toward good health, or your tendency toward illness begins. Fortunately, it is possible for anyone to make the change from negativism, negativism to positivism, and thus basically condition his brain to bring all that is good in life. Moreover, there are certain control levels which the Creator makes available to us. And it is easy to see how successful people use these levers, once you know what they are. Fortunately, it is possible for anyone to make the change from negativism to positivism, and thus basically condition his brain to bring all that is good in life. Moreover, there are certain control levers which the creator makes available to us, and it's easy to see how successful people use these levers once you know what they are. I shall give you some here and some in other chapters so as to reinforce your memory. Now and then you will find reception of names, facts, and methods in the books, always with a view toward helping you remember. Control your mental attitude with definiteness of purpose. Emerson said, "The world makes way for a man who knows where he is going. The world makes way for a man who knows where he is going." Think what it means to know where you're going. Automatically, you rid yourself of all kinds of fears and doubts which may have crept into the making up your mind precise. Your purpose is definite and presto. All the Limitless forces of your mind focus upon the purpose and no other. Knowing your purpose, you cannot be led astray by circumstances or words which have nothing to do with your purpose. Wherefore, a day's work may have contained a good deal of wasted motion. Now your efforts are lined up so that each mental or physical motion helps every other motion. You can see the connection with building wealth, for work done well is a basic wealth builder. Now see the connection with peace of mind. A man who works wholeheartedly at his job is not concerned with such matters as finding fault with others, disturbing his conscience by cutting corners in his work, watching the clock, and so forth. Nor will he be discouraged by any obstacles which may crop up. His positive and focused mental attitude keeps him in a prime position to handle problems and overcome them. Is this the secret of genius? I've mentioned that many eminently, eminently successful men do not possess any greater intelligence than most other men possess. Yet their achievements are such that we may say that these men have genius. Surely it is the positive mental attitude of these men which makes their brain power not greater, but more efficient and more available than most others. When I spoke to such men as Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, and Thomas Edison, I spoke with minds free of any fear or doubt that they could do anything they wished to do so. I know that Andrew Carnegie was well aware of the need for a positive mental attitude before he undertook to back me in my exercise. He really put me on the spot as to my mental attitude. Looking at me shrewdly across his desk, the Canny Scott said, "We've talked a long time and I have shown you the greatest opportunity a young man ever had to become famous, rich, and useful. Now, if I choose you out of the 240 other applicants for this job, if I introduce you to the outstandingly successful man in America, if I help you get their collaboration in finding out the true philosophy of success, will you devote 20 years to the job, earning your own living as you go along? We've had sufficient discussion. I want your answer, yes or no." I begin to think of all the obstacles that would stand in my way. I began to think all the hurdles I would have to jump. I began to think of all the time I would have to spend, and the big job of writing, and the problem of earning my living all that well, and so forth. I spent 29 seconds struggling with the negative mental attitude which I had it overcome me, which have affected me negatively ever after. How do I know I took just 29 seconds? Because when I found a positive mental attitude, which I had lost temporarily, and said yes, Mr. Carnegie showed me the stopwatch he had been holding beneath his desk. He had given me just 1 minute in which to show my positive state of mind. Otherwise, he felt he would not have been able to depend on it. Had beaten the deadline by just 31 seconds, and thereby embraced an opportunity that was destined to change and improve the lives of millions of people, including my own. A positive, a positive mind choosing on other positive minds. Once I had accepted that great task and had set my mind confidently toward it, I found that my imagined obstacles simply melted away. Of course, my positive mental attitude helped me not only in finding out the secrets of some 500 of Americans' wealthiest mind, but also in making considerably more than a mere living. Am I a genius? I must say, a positive evidence I am not. In meeting many men, I discovered a very valuable fact. A positive mind ultimately obtains benefits from other positive minds. Are you aware of a general principle of radio broadcasting? It is this. When electrical vibration of rapid frequency are impressed upon a right aware, those vibrations leap into space. Another wire far away, the receiving antenna can pick them up, and thus a message or picture is transmitted over thousands of miles or millions of miles in space-age communication. There are electrical currents in the brain. They give you a private broadcasting station through which you may send out any kind of thought vibrations you desire. Keep that station busy sending out thoughts of a positive nature, thoughts which will benefit others, and you will find you can receive kindred thoughts, vibrations from other minds whose attitude is tuned to yours. When I visited such successful men as those I have mentioned, and many others such as John Wanamaker, Frank Vanderlip, Edward Bach, and Woodrow Wilson, both they and I felt a attunement of mind to mind. Otherwise, I surely would have met with opposition when I asked those top-ranking men to give me of their time and experience. Not only did such minds spend hours talking to me, but also they served as my teachers and guides for year after year and charged me nothing. Believe in what you are doing, and you too will see the great effect of your belief upon those whom you may request to help you. Doubt yourself, and no part of your mind takes over and draws defeat instead of victory. This barely sketches in the all pervasive power of a positive mental attitude. Let us look at some of other control levers which combine with a positive mental attitude to give you wealth and peace of mind for an entire victorious lifetime. The nine major motives. It is not for nothing that thought trials often concern themselves questions of motive. Everything you do is the result of one or more motives. In various combinations, we use nine basic motives. The seven positive motives are the first one, the emotion of love. The second one, sex. The third one, material gain. And then self-preservation, freedom of a body and man, self-expression, perpetuation of later after death. And the two negative emotions are the emotion of anger and revenge. The second, the emotion of fear. So the seven positive motives are love, sex, material gain, self-preservation, freedom of body and mind, self-expression, perpetuation of life after death, 自我表达，身体和思想的自由，物质的、爱的、虚的。In those nine motives, you can find the roots of everything you do or refrain from doing. Peace of mind is attained only by the exercise of the seven positive motives as a general pattern of life. Rarely, if ever, does a person who has peace of mind exercise the two negative motives or emotions. You cannot have peace of mind while you fear anything or anyone. You cannot have peace of mind while you entertain the kind of anger which brings you to a desire for revenge or desire to injure another, no matter what the justification may seem to be. Great minds have no time to waste with the desire to injure others. If they did, they would not be great minds. Great minds are not immune to fear, but theirs is not the kind of fear that hangs on constantly and takes over all of the life. Look too small, mean mind to see lifelong patterns of fear and anger. Their minds are so filled with these negative influences that they cannot find the power to shape the circumstances they desire. Recently, I heard about a man, now 70, who 15 years ago lost all his money in a real estate venture. Taking the advice of a friend, he had borrowed heavily in order to invest in vacant swampland on the assumption that in a couple of years the land would be in great demand for building lots. This did not transpire. The man's note became due, and he had to see his retail shoe business sold out from under him. The friend who had badly advised him also had lost money. Nevertheless, this man became filled with hatred toward his friend and said he would get even if it's the last thing I do. It nearly was. 5 years of hatred left him incapable even of doing business. Meanwhile, the friend prospered and seemed far out of reach of any puny revenge. The man who had lost his money at length lost the balanced view of his mind and had to spend 6 months in a quiet place in the country surrounded by a high wall. In his last month of confinement, however, he was sufficiently recovered to listen to an advisor who pointed out to him that hatred and the desire for revenge had done him far more harm than had been done by his losing his money. He was persuaded to forgive the friend who had led him into the risky deal. He even wrote to this man, telling of his change of heart. When he went back into business, it was with love of his fellow man and the determination to keep his mind filled with positive, constructive motives. Beginning at the age of 60, he built a new career. Nor now, at 70, he is fairly well off, and most of all, he has peace of mind, the one form of wealth which is indispensable. I myself have suffered from the effects of negative motives from time to time. When I went into building, as discussed in the last chapter, I acted at first upon a very wise motive of self-preservation. Soon, however, this turned into fear, and with the fear came misery. Fortunately, I saw in time what was happening to me. It cannot happen again. You can call upon 10 precise maidens to stand at the doors of your mind. You can call upon 10 precise of guidance to stand at the doors of your mind. Okay. You can make yourself aware of certain principles of personal guidance and guardianship. And to make these principles real and memorable, you can personalize them. See them as so many princesses in armor who stand at the doors of your mind. These princesses challenge every thought vibration which seeks to enter. They keep your mind positive, effective, and free of discord. 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 Okay. I shall name my own princess, a list of which you may wish to modify to suit your own life requirements. 起了这么多名字。The Prince of Peace of Mind. He stands at the very outer door and asks all callers if they come in peace to share my peace. If not, they're turned away. The Prince of Hope and Faith. He admits only those influences which keep my mind alerted with belief in my mission in life. The Prince of Love and Romance. He brings into my mind only those influences which keep love eternally fresh in my heart. The Prince of Sound Physical Health. He knows the kind of mental influences which can destroy health, and meet only those states of mind which help the body maintain its vigor. The Prince of Financial Security. When I desire him to stand on guard, he admits no thoughts save those which bring me wealthy financial benefit. The Prince of Overall Wisdom. He is charged with tossing certain thoughts into my store of knowledge, and he sees they will benefit me or help me benefit others. Prince of Patience. He keeps away all impulses to rush, to tackle jobs half prepared, to be in any way impatient with the power of time. The Prince of Hill. Hill is a very personal word I have created for my own use. Combining certain names, it means to me what it cannot mean to any other. Just so, create your own name for your own very personal prince. This prince stands guard along with all the others. The others from time to time may be relieved of duty, for instance, but hardly may wish continually to keep out all thoughts except those which have to do with financial security. Your special personal prince is always there, representing all the special personal influences in your life. Hill is my ambassador at large, who performs services not assigned to the other members of my invisible family of guides. When you have made yourself well aware of your force of spiritual princesses, they serve to rally all your forces to solve any problem or to set up special lines of defense. Sometimes I find myself taking to someone whose antagonistic attitude begins to invade my peace of mind. Very well, I send a special alert to the Prince of Peace of Mind. Immediately, he takes charge of the ramparts with doubled strength, and I'm calm and in control of my own mind once more. Or let us say, I feel some physical ache or pain. I call upon the Prince of Sound Physical Health to look into the cause, and I get good results. I believe I have received the benefits of a healing which are beyond the power of ordinary medical science to explain. My princes of guidance receive a certain compensation for their services. Their pay is my eternal gratitude. Daily, I express this gratitude, first to each of the princesses individually, then to all of them in their mighty group. You will find this expression of gratitude of great help in keeping your mind alerted to its own powers. I know that if I ever neglect it, I feel inactive on the parts of my princesses. When once again I make myself aware every day that I have great spiritual forces at my command. There they are once more as strong as ever. Don't let the motive of material gain conflict with the motive of freedom. Material gain and freedom. Okay. Don't let the two motives conflict with each other. Freedom of body is easy to see and understand, but freedom of mind is a subtle matter. Fear and anger put the mind behind bars. Guilt wraps the mind in chains. To add a bit of levity to a serious matter, once there was a man who was encouraged to know himself. Immediately, he handcuffed himself to his bed, so he would not get up and raffle his own pockets during the night. All too often, the motive for material gain, excellent in itself, conflicts with the excellent motive of freedom of body and mind. Because in gaining what is material, we give up freedom of mind. We load the mind with guilt and fear because we do not act honestly. In addition, One who makes his money through taking dishonest advantage of his fellow man has cheated himself of the genuine joy which comes with honest success. When you obey the rules of a game and win, you have done something for your soul. When you cheat and win, you only call it a winning, but you have really lost instead. I believe I was fortunate in starting my career very early in life so that I learned life's lessons quite early. Let me tell you of an experience I had while I was holding my first job. I was just out of business college and I was inexperienced in the ways of life and the character of mind. My employer owned a number of banks. He had placed his son as a cashier of one of his banks in a distant town. One night, a hotel manager in that town telephoned me, saying my employer's son was in serious difficulty. He had not been able to reach my employer immediately. I boarded the train and arrived in the town early the next morning. When I went to the bank, I found the door closed but unlocked. Inside, I discovered that the vault had been left open and beautiful green currency was scattered all over the teller's counter. I closed the door and picked up the telephone. I managed to get my employer on the phone and told him why I had gone to that town and I was what I found on my arrival. In great distress, he said, "Go ahead and count the money, balance the books, draw a draft on me for whatever storage or shortage there may be." I settled down to counting the money. To my great surprise, not a cent was missing. I sat there looking at those piles of greenbacks. My youth had been tragic, turbulent, and poor. My present state was one of quiet solvency. I sat there looking at nearly $50,000 in cash, knowing that I could put at least half of it into my pocket and knowing that and nobody would be the wiser. My employer's son showed obvious signs of mental instability. Everyone would assume he had taken the money. He even had acted as though he had filled his own pockets. I was the only one who knew he had not. The motive of material gain nudged heavily at me, but the motive of freedom said, "Don't do it." Or rather, it was something that kept me honest. For at that time, I could not have named the major motives. Perhaps that something was the result of certain sanctions I had had with my stepmother before I had left home, in which she had instilled into me the fact that I was in control of my own mind and that always I must live with myself. I locked the money into the vault forthwith, then phoned my employer and told him there was no deficiency to make up. Not a cent has been stolen. I walked out of the bank with a mind at peace, a mind that was free and joyous, joyously positive. However, after I have placed the motive of freedom ahead of the motive of material gain, I have succeeded in having all the money I need without ever hampering either my inward or outward freedom. This episode was one of the several which led me straight to Andrew Carnegie and my realization of my goal in life. My employer was grateful for the way in which I had protected his son's reputation as best I could. It was reasonable later for my entering Georgetown University Law School. This led through a chain of circumstances to my assignment to interview Mr. Carnegie. If I had yielded to the material gain motive that day in the bank, the sense of personal achievement would never have come into being. Yes, as Emerson suggested, there is a silent partner in all our transactions, and what is the lot of the man who tries to drive a sharp bargain with life? Life reflects your own thoughts back to you. Thoughts are things, a poet sighed, and surely they have an existence of their own. so that a curse comes back to curse you and a blessing comes back to bless you, reflected by the mighty mirror of life. Another poet said, I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. This too is true, and the two truths harmonize. Send out positive thoughts from a positive oriented soul, and the world will reflect back greater and greater positive influences to help you. Turn back and read the list of 9 basic motives. Concentrate on the 7 positive motives. Remember, it is possible for these motives to come into conflict. As we have seen, but by and large, they draw one way, and with a positive mental attitude, they take you the way you want to go. We shall not say farewell to the motives till we are finished with this book. But let us now pay our respects briefly. Love has limitless scope. Handle it in the spirit of reverence, for it is tuned to the eternal. Give freely of it, and you will attract as much as or more than you gave. Stop giving love and you stop receiving. For no other emotion or motive or desire is the mirror of life, so very evident. Love. Sex is the great creative force of the universe. On its highest plane, it merges with love. But love can exist without being sexual. The mighty power of sex can be transmuted into action for the achievement of profound purposes. And so important is this matter that later on we shall devote an entire chapter to it. On the other hand, sex may be debauched and misused, and it is in the guise that it brings grief and trouble to mankind and give itself an underserved bad reputation. Self-preservation can become an active force when one seeks it without regard to the rights of other people. It's instilled by nature to help us stay alive. Even so, the human being assumes the pre- prerogative of rising above all. When the ship is sinking, it is women and children first, and there are many parallel instances which call forth a nobility in human nature. Self-expression is part of finding oneself. It is part of one's freedom to be oneself. Thus, it is positive, constructive, and infinitely valuable. Only make sure that your own means of self-expression do not demean or damage others. Perpetuation of life after death belongs among the earliest beliefs and motives of mankind. It should be bounded by common sense and a true understanding of one's relationship to the change known as death. When wrapped in superstition and fear, this motive leads only to wretchedness. It can turn life into a preparation for death and hamper an entire civilization. The surest way of finding peace of mind, the surest way of finding peace of mind. The surest way of finding peace of mind is that which helps the greatest number of others to find it. Let this be your guide to your use of the great motivating forces. Then you will know you're using them correctly, not corrupting them. Is there peace of mind in prayer? There can be, there should be. But note how many people go to prayer only in the hour of misfortune, when the motive of fear dominates their minds. The approach must be negative in that case, and so in terms of peace of mind, the results must be negative as well. Prayers which bring peace of mind proceed from a man which gives forth a confident message, even though that man may be afflicted with problems and sorrow. Prayers which great forces to solve problems are born in minds, which know that the problems can be solved once the forces are found, and have perfect confidence in the existence of those forces. Along with many others, I see evidence of intelligence beyond man's. I believe that the positive conditioned man, conditioned man may at times tune in on that intelligence. Yet man's conditioning through prayer or resolution is something the individual must accomplish for himself. When the Creator made man free to seek his own destiny and choose between good and evil, he gave man this prerogative, prerog- prerogative as well. Every great accomplishment of any man at any time first not to exist as a thought before it could exist as reality, as a, as a reality. Have you recognized the supreme secret? Supreme secret. Checking on chapter 3. Life says yes when you maintain a positive mental attitude. The man of mind is more wonderful than any computer. Like a computer, however, it seems to process much thinking at the yes or no gate. A positive mental attitude helps you find every possible yes in every life circumstances. Even if your attitude presently is negative, you can change it to positive and open your life to all that is rich and rewarding. Control your mental attitude with the definiteness of purpose. Famous and successful men never show any doubt as to their ability to do what they wish to do. Anyone at any stage of his life can win the benefits of this man transforming method. Focus your mind upon a single purpose, and you seem to achieve genius powers because your mind works far more efficiently. Now you find ways to handle problems that used to stump you. And to set obstacles aside, a positive mind tunes in on other positive minds. Through this mental broadcasting, you exchange priceless information and guidance. 我一会儿上去 Control the major motives that control your life. 7 positive motives and 2 negative motives stand behind everything you do. Small men allow the 2 negative emotions, anger and fear, to rob them peace of mind and prevent their minds from conceiving and achieving greatly. Big men use the 7 positive motives to build the kind of life they want. You can form princesses of guidance to stand at the doors of your mind and prevent negative influences from entering. When you make use of such spiritual princesses, they're always ready to take care of any emergency situation, such as a threat to health, as well as your day-to-day needs. You can prevent your motives from conflicting with each other. The desire for material gain may conflict with the desire for freedom, but freedom of mind and body is the more important. The emotion of love is yours as long as you give love to others. Sex is a creative force which should not be debauched and misused. The belief in a life after death must be freed from superstition and fear. Self expression and self preservation are great human rights which benefit you when they do not harm others. All the positive motives will guide you, and the negative motives, if they touch you, will not harm you if you remember. The surest way of finding peace of mind is the way which helps the greatest number of others to find it. 好，以上就是本书第3章的全部内容。我们下一次接着阅读第4章。When you are free of fear, you are free to live. 啊，下次再见。